very interesting main event at strawweight. And no, listen, Glover Teixeira and Thiago Santos, A, can't make strawweight, but B, not fighting. And we have an interesting fight because this was supposed to be our co-main event to that card, headlined by Glover Teixeira and a really tough out Thiago Santos. They moved this fight from a 3-round fight to a 5-round main event. They didn't even do that for Anthony Smith and Alexander Rakic, but we get that here. And I think that gives it a bit of an interesting dynamic. And we have the Karate Hottie, Michelle Waterson, taking on Angela Overkill Hill. It should be a great fight. And I'm surprised that these two fighters didn't face each other before. Now, they have a lot of common opponents, but Michelle Waterson's been fighting that top level strawweight for a very long time. I know it's been said time and time again that she's an undersized strawweight. She's really an atomweight. It's interesting, though, that both these fighters similar in terms of height and reach. So normally Michelle Waterson maybe doesn't fight like a taller, longer fighter. Angela Hill does. And a very credentialed kickboxing career, a very nice Muay Thai background. I caught a lot of flack, and I have to stand up for myself, when Angela Hill went to fight Loma Lookboonmee, and a lot of people said, oh, well, Loma, she is a great Muay Thai fighter. She comes out of a Muay Thai lineage, and Angela Hill said before that fight, on the Joe Rogan Experience, for what it's worth, her Muay Thai was a lot better. I watched a lot of their fights, I ran with that narrative, and I got slaughtered, and then Angela Hill's Muay Thai looked great. Michelle Waterson is good at shooting and moving in and out of range. She is good at that. She's a lot better in the pocket. She's a very dynamic striker. She'll throw a lot of things that the women at strawweight won't throw. And when it goes to the ground, she can get crafty. It is an interesting fight, and I like this matchup.
I don't even just think Michelle Waterson can get crafty. I think she has to take it to the ground if she wants to win this fight. They call her the Karate Hottie. She has a lot of those karate techniques, but her stand-up's not top tier for women's strawweight. We see a lot of the strikers now, women like Nina Ansaroff, women like Joanna, Wei Li. There's a lot of high-level strikers now in this division that weren't there when Michelle Waterson was kind of initially making her way up the rankings. Because you have to remember, Michelle Waterson fought Paige Van Zandt as the main event on a Big Fox card when Big Fox cards were still a thing. Like, it was a while ago, because people still think, like, oh, Michelle Waterson hasn't been in the UFC for that long. 2016 was 4 years ago. It wasn't last year. Like, it was a meaningful amount of time that there's new contenders in the division, or the contenders that were still there have finally fought her, and we see what happens to Michelle Waterson when she fights one of those top-level strikers. I'm not going to sit here and compare Angela Hill to Joanna Jędrzejczyk, because yes, you can say Angela Hill is a better Muay Thai fighter than Loma Lookboonmee. She's not a better Muay Thai fighter than Joanna Jędrzejczyk, but has kind of a similar style, at least at this stage in her career. Doesn't have the power or the speed, of course, but what does Angela Hill do? Strikes on the outside, tries to get a tie clinch. There's a lot of knees, there's a lot of elbows. It's kind of what Joanna does. Now, for Michelle Waterson, if it ever does get into those clinch situations, Waterson has those really good head and arm throws. You've seen a lot in women's MMA. She's great on the ground, too. We saw that in the Paige Van Zandt fight. Now, of course, again, Angela Hill's better than Paige Van Zandt on the ground, but it was just a good comparison because similar body types between Angela Hill and Paige Van Zandt, kind of longer fight, somewhat similar. But the second that fight hit the mat, Waterson took her back and choked her out fairly quick. If Waterson's able to get this fight on the mat, I do think she'll have the advantage, but I don't think it'll be such an overwhelming advantage to where Angela Hill's just kind of a fish out of water. On the feet, it'll be interesting because Michelle Waterson, she throws that nice check right hook. She's got that nice front lead kick off her right leg. She uses it like a side kick and a push kick. But the weird thing with Michelle Waterson, she's this credentialed striker who doesn't really strike that much. She's very low volume, and I think that really hurts her in a lot of her fights because when you look at what Michelle Waterson does well, she has that great karate, but she's more than happy to stand on the outside, kind of pot shot with those kicks. Because at strawweight, you see a lot of outputs in the 4 to 5 strikes per minute range, whereas Waterson, not steal your thunder, Craig, as you pull up UFC stats, is down near like a 3.3. And you can really tell from her fights, too. The Karolina Kowalkiewicz fight, I thought that was a great performance from her. But after that, against Joanna and Esparza was able to change it up enough to mix in her wrestling so that Michelle Waterson could never really get comfortable. And then Joanna just beat the brakes off her on the feet. But when Waterson does face those higher level strikers, I know she beat Karolina, but Karolina hasn't looked the same in years now. But if she fights someone like Angela Hill, I just think Angela's going to be able to have such a striking advantage that on the outside, she'll be able to kick her apart. On the inside, she'll be able to land knees. So really, I think Michelle Waterson has to get this fight to the ground as soon as possible.
And I agree with you, and you bring up a good point in terms of the stats. So if you look at Michelle Waterson, strikes landed per minute, 3.31 to 3.79 absorbed. So a negative rate there. You don't like to see that, especially in a division where you have a lot of volume strikers. Her defense is at 48%. That's not all that great. For Angela Hill, positive differential 5.76 given to 5.17 taken. Her striking defense 64%. You have to think that that's going to hold up. Now, the stats in terms of Michelle Waterson are weighted a little bit more because of a couple of her fights, but mainly the Ona Jędrzejczyk fight, where she took 222 total strikes, or 226 total strikes to 71 given by Waterson. That's not good. That's going to change the weighting of your stats. The other thing that I like, so Michelle Waterson per 15 minutes averages 1.68 takedowns. If you look at it on the opposite side, Angela Hill's takedown defense is pretty good at 72%. She's also fought a lot of good fighters who can really do quite well on the ground. And if you want to go down through the list, you can. And you're talking former common opponents. But if we look at Angela Hill, and maybe not so much on this run, because she lost that split decision to Claudia Gadelha. All right, let's get into that. We look at it over on MMA decisions. An overwhelming majority, over 10, I believe it's 13, picked Angela Hill to win or had her winning. For Gadelha, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it wasn't close there. I know Gadelha got the win. The other thing that was weird about that, I mean, you had 29-28s across the board, flip-flopping in the middle. But the win over Carnelossi, all right, it is what it is. Hannah Cyphers, And then Loma Lookboonmee. Those fighters aren't on the same level as Waterson, let alone Gadelha, but Angela Hill looked good in her last fight.
You bring up a really good point. That's what I was going to get into. Angela Hill beats the people outside the top 15 and tends to lose the people inside the top 15. But it's really interesting because right now, I don't know if this version of Michelle Waterson is a top 15 fighter anymore. It's kind of starting to muddy the waters because both fighters are in a similar position, although they're in different trajectories. Angela Hill definitely on her way up. I know that Gadelha fight was a loss, but again, in public perception, a lot of people thought that she won. She was really funny on Twitter afterwards, which is always nice. And that's been the great thing for Angela Hill, and I think this is a big X factor in this fight. I think going from 3 to 5 rounds actually favors Angela Hill because she's always in shape and she's always used to taking short notice fights. Almost all of her fights are on like 3 weeks notice. Like, oh shoot, Angela Hill fights next week. And that's kind of been the story of her career as of late. So I think it actually really helps her because she stays in shape 24/7 all year round. So the change of 3 to 5 rounds, she's going to be in shape no matter what. And I think that's actually a really big benefit on her behalf.
And yeah, I mean, for Michelle Waterson, so we're talking about Angela Hill, her last fight against Claudia. It was a split decision loss. It was really close. For Michelle Waterson, really weird scores. I know the majority went with Waterson to win that over on MMA decisions, but Sal D'Amato scored it 29-28 Esparza. Howard Reichbach scored it 30-27 Esparza, and Dave Torelli scored it 30-27 for Waterson. So you rarely see split decisions that are that far across the board. Kind of odd there. In terms of Michelle Waterson in this fight, yeah, again, we talked about it. Her striking, usually at a negative differential. Her ground game, quite good. Angela Hill has good takedown defense. It should counteract it. Hill coming in, the favorite, opened as a minus 170. Quick money came in on Waterson. Things kind of leveled off. And now you've got Angela Hill sitting around a minus 130. You have Michelle Waterson at a plus 105. If you look over on Tapology, very narrow margins. Wow. Angela Hill at a 524 votes, 51% going with Hill, 86% by decision. 5-round decision, I mean, that's tough, but Michelle Waterson is tough to get out of a fight. She really is. So I think that's a conservative pick. That's a pick that I would have gone with myself as well if you can find me or if you want to. Fight Night picks over on Tapology. But yeah, I'm going to go with Angela Hill to get the win here. I think you bring up a lot of good points. She's always in shape, always looking for a fight. I know everybody else is going to say it, but I have to pile on too and say it. She is now entering the category of female Donald Cowboy Cerrone, just ready to fight whenever. But this should be a really entertaining fight. There's pathways to victory for both fighters. I think it's a safer one to go with Hill. Women's MMA, who knows what could happen, but I think Hill's a safe pick, and that's who I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I think Angela Hill, the volume and the range that she's going to be able to keep, and then again, every time the fight does end up close, she can get that tie clinch and start blasting knees to the body. I think that's really going to help her, especially as the fight moves on, and I think Angela Hill has a lot of those techniques that kind of put money in the bag. She has good leg kicks, she has good body shots, and those are things that you invest in early, and then as the fight wears on, it kind of wears on your opponent, and I just think Angela Hill, if she wins the first round, that's the best case scenario, because I think she's going to pick up steam as the fight goes on. And if she loses the first couple of rounds, I wouldn't even get that discouraged because I do think as the fight starts to progress, she's going to get more and more comfortable. So I agree. I'm going to pick Angela Hill probably by decision.
Matt, I think this fight's great in terms of seeding for the women's strawweight division. It really could play out either way, but you should see the fighter maybe ranked and then fighting more big name opponents. It's a wide open division. It is the best division in women's MMA at this point. and we have new talent coming in at 25 and 35. It seems every week, but 15 always strong with a good top core. So I'm looking forward to this one. All kinds of different contenders for fight of the night on this card. A Zaitar and Worthy, your co-main event, a good one. Camacho Weaver could be a really good one too. So make sure you check out the playlist. We had a lot of fun kind of getting ready and researching for this week. Make sure you check out Fight Night Picks Kicks on Saturday night to get a final recap and preview an hour before the show. I do my best to follow along with the comments, but holy crow, do they come in quick. So make sure you tune into that. And again, as it pops up in the start of these videos, you can find us at Fight Night Picks on Instagram. I post these pictures ahead of the card on Saturday morning, and you can vote for who you're going to go with. I read those on air. Make sure you check those out. Both going with Angela Hill in this one. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, and as we always say, Matt,
let's get into it.